Hey, gun people. I already did a video on this where the FBI put everybody that's an American patriot on a freaking watch list or says we're terrorists. And this is a pretty good interview from Texas, Ted Cruz, questioning the FBI director. I forgot his name, Wray or something. Here we go.
Justice had become thoroughly politicized. I think this is a problem that began during the Obama administration. I think it metastasized with career officials during the Trump administration, and I think it continues and is even worse today under the Biden administration.
He kind of gets into a little statement instead of a question here, but he makes some good points.
I don't believe you personally reflect that politicization, but I think you've been unwilling.
I think that was a little bit of a suck up. I think the director does absolutely. He just promoted a guy to freaking oversight of the Washington area who was an anti-Trumper, and then he puts him in charge of the January 6th investigation. So here he's just kissing his ass. I think he's being disingenuous that he doesn't think he's involved in this. He damn sure is. All the freaking government cronies are involved in it.
To root it out, and unwilling to hold people accountable for the politicization. I hear regularly from FBI agents and from professionals at the Department of Justice who are dismayed that our law enforcement has been weaponized and politicized rather than remaining apolitical as it has been for the history of our country. Yesterday, it was reported that Project Veritas had obtained a copy of an FBI training material.
You know, here's what bothers me is you're in the Senate and you can't make the FBI produce this document and its author. Come on.
Which listed various symbols and themes which in the FBI's estimation were indicative of, quote, militia violent extremism. Now, these symbols weren't things like the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party, which naturally would be symbols of that. But instead they...
Notice how everyone else doesn't care what anybody else says because they're just worried about what they're going to say to make points when they get their turn to talk. I mean, if I was there, I'd be caring what he had to say because I would agree with it. But whatever.
Included, rather astonishingly, patriotic symbols of our nation and our history. Included on this list is the Betsy Ross flag. Now, that's fairly remarkable that the Betsy Ross flag in the FBI's indication is indicative of militia violent extremism, because among other people who have been publicly alongside the Betsy Ross...
Somebody asked what this flag was. I looked it up. They sell it on Amazon. I put a link. If I remember, I'll put another link to it. But anyway.
Flag. We have President Barack Obama, who was sworn in directly underneath two Betsy Ross.
Okay, so this is a good point that he's making. This isn't a terrorist flag. If it is, why are we swearing presidents underneath it? It's part of our history. Our communists, KGB, FBI, and all federal government, ATF, every one of them, are anti-American tradition, anti-gun, anti-patriot. They want more power so they can work around, run around, and do things unaccountable. I read in this thing right here, it says none of these, and I told you it was a disqualifying statement, none of these things individually necessarily make somebody a terrorist. That may be true, but I guarantee you, if they want your guns and they get red flag laws, they're going to use this document to take your guns and say, right here, the FBI has said, if you've got a Gadsden flag, you're violent, you shouldn't have a gun, we're going to red flag you. That's what this is leading to, in my opinion.
Flags. But it's not just President Obama. We also have President Biden, who was sworn in under Betsy Ross flags.
Really great point.
It's not just the Betsy Ross flag. Also on this list is the Gadsden flag as a symbol of violent extremism. Now, the state of Virginia has a license plate for the Gadsden flag.
So does Texas. So does a lot of other states. You can order a special plate with that on it.
As do many other states. I think people would be astonished to find that having that license plate, the FBI, indicates that you're a violent extremist. Also included on this is a text that I was particularly struck, is the Gonzalez battle flag.
Come and take it. It's painted on the top of my garage. I have shirts with it. I have stickers with it.
Come and take it. As indicative of being a violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots.
What a great line. I actually have a pair of boots. Instead of it on the back, it's on the soles. So when I put my feet up, it says come and take it on the soles.
That have the Gonzalez battle flag on the back of them. Director Wray, what are y'all doing? This makes no sense. Do you agree with this FBI guidance that the Betsy Ross flag and the Gadsden flag and the Gonzalez battle flag are signs of militia violent extremism?
Well, Senator, I'm not familiar with the particular document you have behind you.
Why wouldn't you be familiar? It's on the freaking news. Everybody's talking about it. Why wouldn't they give him a copy before he came in there? Why wouldn't they say, we're going to discuss this document before you come in here? They're all freaking weasels.
And I'm not in the practice of trying to comment on documents that I haven't recognized.
Actually, the FBI comments on all kind of shit that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So that's another lie.
But I will tell you that when we put out intelligence products, including ones that reference symbols, which we do across a wide variety of contexts, we usually take great pains to put caveats and warnings in the document that make clear that a symbol alone is not.
Notice how he looked down? He read that because he does know the document and he knows it was in there. I call him a freaking liar. That's right. FBI director, you're a freaking liar.
Considered evidence of violent extremism, and it's...
Well, but Director Wray, you don't include things like Antifa, you don't include things like Black Lives Matter. Instead, you identify patriotic Americans as suspects. And I would note there's a pattern of this. As you're aware, the National Association of School Boards asked the Attorney General to investigate parents as domestic terrorists under the Patriot Act. Now,
that was a big deal. It was a big deal that they asked them to investigate. It was a bigger deal that the FBI actually did investigate and open up investigations. You know what? Doesn't matter. Government doesn't care. They know that people run around and say, we have a Second Amendment, but we're not willing to use it. Not that I would ever encourage violence.
It did so because it was upset about moms and dads coming to school boards and disagreeing with the policies of those schools. 5 days after that letter, the Attorney General sent a memo to you directing the FBI to target parents for investigation. Since that time, the National Association of School Boards has apologized for the letter because it was so indefensible, but that hasn't stopped the FBI. In fact, you've created a specific threat tag directed at parents. So let me ask you, how many moms and dads who have spoken up at school boards has the FBI interviewed or
this guy finally decided to look at the document.
investigated since the memo from the Attorney General?
Well, first off, I'll say I'm not aware of any. But second, let me address the issue.
You're not aware of any? Like
Yes,
the House of
if you'd let me-
Representatives has
if you-
written you and asked
If
you
you would
about
let me, if you would let me.
So please
finish,
answer.
Please. Let me say to you,
Okay, so what you guys don't understand is when these questions are answering and you get these guys with these open-ended questions and you let them explain, they get to drag it out, pause, and eat up your time. And then they know you can't ask more questions. So you're going to notice this stalling and he's looking for words. He wants to eat up his time. He doesn't want to answer the question. Freaking weasel.
and to this committee, the same thing I said to every FBI field office after I read the memo, which was that the FBI is not going to be in the business of investigating speech or policing speech at school board meetings or anywhere else, and that we're not about to start now, that violence threats of violence, that's a different matter altogether, and there we will work with our state and local partners as we always have.
So, Director
You asked
Wray,
about- you asked about-
Director Wray, our time is. Do you know how many parents you have interviewed or investigated since that memo?
I am aware that we have had a small number of assessments, which is less than an investigation, and a few full investigations. Hold on.
how many have you
Hold on. Let me finish.
I'm asking a question. Our time is limited.
I don't know the number, but did not necessarily.
And that's the answer. I don't know the number. This is why you don't let people start editorializing and freaking going on and on.
But let me finish. That are not necessarily of parents. We have individuals who have made threats against a variety of people, sometimes school board officials, sometimes other people as well.
Director Wray, I will point out the House of Representatives has sent you oversight letters detailing dozens of investigations under a threat tag directed at parents, moms and dads, who G-men have come in because they spoke out against.
I like when he calls them G-men.
Mask mandates or vaccine mandates or critical race theory, and suddenly the G-men show up. And this was after the Attorney General claimed it wasn't happening. And so the pattern, sadly, we've seen, you say you don't know how many there are. The follow-up will be, I'll send you a letter, and you'll send back a letter that says I refuse to answer it.
That was a slam. Okay? In case you missed that, that was a slam. All these department heads appointed by Biden or any of his little cronies, they don't want to cooperate. They don't like the fact that they have to cooperate. They all think they should be above the law.
Let me give another example. Recently, there was the case against individuals charged with kidnapping and murdering Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan.
I did a video on that case. If you remember, the FBI wanted these guys to go kidnap. They suggested it. They actually gave them a ride. They provided the address of the governor. The guys said they didn't want to do it, and the FBI informant and FBI undercover kind of coerced them and made them, and then they arrested them and tried to charge them. And they all got either acquitted or mistrialed. And you're going to notice that the FBI goes, we're planning on retrying them. So they didn't like the fact that the jury agreed that the FBI set these guys up.
That case ended up an absolute debacle where the 4 people who went to trial, 2 of them were acquitted, 2 received mistrials.
Okay, the difference between acquittal and mistrial. Acquittal is when 12 jurors agree not guilty. Not one of them voted guilty. A mistrial is where you couldn't get a unanimous vote. You either had people that could make a decision, or you had some say guilty and some say not guilty. So that's the difference between a mistrial and an acquittal. Once you're acquitted, the government cannot charge you. So the 2 that got acquitted, the government cannot recharge them. The 2 that got a mistrial, the government can come back and get a second bite of the apple, which I think is bullshit, but whatever.
None of them were convicted on even a single charge, and the basis of the defense was entrapment, that the FBI, that paid enforcements for the FBI, had suggested and had incited the conduct. Let me ask you, how many FBI agents were disciplined or reprimanded after that?
Okay, anytime you ask law enforcement disciplinary actions, they're always going to say, I can't discuss it. Again, more non-transparency, more protections, so citizens cannot find out what government's doing, how they're correcting things, who they're hiring, who are they retaining, how are they fixing problems. Is it really a problem, or did they just, wash it over and go, that's no big deal? We can't find out because personnel records are protected.
Disastrous case and the misconduct that led to every defendant being acquitted or having a mistrial on every charge.
Senator, I can't comment on a personnel matter.
Shocking.
I can tell you that case, as I understand it, is now pending a retrial.
So that was a sly way of him saying, hey, just because the jury screwed up, we're going to retry the 2 acquittals. He didn't say, or we're going to retry the 2 mistrials. The 2 acquittals, he can't do it. But he said that case implying that they're all going to be recharged. He's full of shit. He can't recharge the acquittals.
I understand it.
Well, the special agent in charge of that case has now been sent to D.C., to the Washington, D.C. office, and now leads the investigation regarding January 6th. Is that correct?
That doesn't sound right to me.
That does not sound right. That
doesn't sound right. I wonder what does sound right. Why don't you say what sounds right instead of it doesn't sound right? Suddenly he doesn't want to elaborate. Shocking.
The name of the individual is Stephen D'Antuono. It was run out of the FBI Detroit field office. And by the way, I will point out that the lead investigator, Special Agent Track, are you aware that he was apparently fired for allegedly beating his wife after coming home from a swingers party, and he'd made multiple derogatory political posts about President Trump showing political bias? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of, I think, the incident you're describing and action that was taken about it. To clarify on the...
Action was taken. You know what that means? Yo, man, don't put that in the public anymore. That's not action. They promote these guys who do this because the FBI is a political arm of the left-wing idiots that are destroying this country. They are the enemy of the people and the enemy of this country.
The first part of your question, Mr. D'Antuono was the special agent in charge of the office, the Detroit field office, and is now the assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. I thought you were asking about the agent.
That's a pretty good promotion. You're the director of a small field office, then you go to D.C. and you're assistant director. That's a significant promotion.
Who was responsible for the...
So the guy in charge got promoted and is now in charge of the January 6th investigation.
The guy in charge of the whole Detroit field office is now in charge of the whole Washington field office.
That is astonishing.
You know what? This all sounds good and it looks good and I'm all for what he's doing, but it doesn't fix or change a damn thing. But remember, pesky citizens, if you give up your guns, government will look after you and protect you because you'll always be safer if only government has guns and you don't. Stay frosty, people. We'll end that there.